What? Oh, hey there. I hope you've been doing well, because I've certainly been nothing but miserable due to a lot of personal stuff happening. But that really doesn't matter. I still have a game to develop. The only problem is that due to the long time period between my last video, again, I kept thinking about what features to add and then make a video about, and then again, and again, stacking them up until ending up with, well, just take a look at this. This is everything that I did for the previous video, and this is what it looks like now. And this is just an image. I mean, look at how many scripts there actually have been made. At some point you need to draw a line for yourself. Heck, this place you are looking at also has custom scripts made that will eventually be implemented in the main project, like the way the camera you're looking through is moving. Anyway, the intent is for the end result to be a turn-based tactics game, so there will be a lot of overlap on data that both player and enemy characters share. Case in point, starting out with a health and focus bar. I mean, you probably already know what it does, like, wow, look at the animation. The next thing is move distance. Again, fairly simple statistics being stored and changeable to indicate how far and in which state every character is allowed to move during their turn. You can also have these statistics be changed so that characters aren't bound to whatever they're given from the beginning. The stat modifiers is up next, and probably the most unique regular stat class. This is effectively a container where I put any stats that aren't unique enough to be made into a separate class, and they might not even be things that you need to see under normal circumstances. However, a lot of these modifiers are critical to expanding what a bunch of other classes can do, to be able to offer variety. Character status is a container for any active status effects that a character has. It functions for adding and removing them, and keeping track of conditions that cause them to be either triggered or automatically removed. This went through several iterations of me racking my brain to figure out exactly what I wanted out of it, and the end result now has two types of subcategories on what it can do. Either cause any stats to change when a certain condition is triggered, like ending a turn, attacking, moving, etc. Or it causes a permanent stat change that is reverted when the status effect is removed. Or if you really want to, you can have both types active as well. For player characters, there are a bunch of extra stats to be kept in mind. The first thing is a counter for limbs that can affect certain dice rolls for movement. I haven't fully decided if I want to keep this in yet. Player skills are one of the core feature ideas that I've had for this. Any player character has 24 different possible skills that are going to be used for ability checks and cover a huge variety of things that someone might interact with. Skills for various types of combat, utility, item usage, ability checks needing to rely on multiple skill checks with various success and fail cases, and so on. And at the same time, having just levels to skills on their own might end up losing out on what makes each skill unique beyond these checks. So a perk system is also added that can do different things depending on how high a skill level is, adding more unique dice, affecting other core stats, exclusive actions that the player can use, or even giving negative effects to make someone think twice on how far they are willing to go for some of the more specialized perks available. Dice Manager is for keeping track of what dice a player is allowed to use. By default, you have a regular 6-sided die, but certain skills at certain level points can offer dice that can balance out probabilities, or near guarantee success with the risk of being afflicted by more dangerous status effects. And finally, for all of these stat features here, game mechanics is something that currently doesn't exist and is just kept as a dictionary of strings for now. The idea of it is to have a way to implement and use things that can't otherwise be done through the stats of all characters alone, like mapping out the area you're in advance before you walked into an area. So they need to be manually created and assigned as really rare perks. It really becomes tiring to keep track of all these things separately, which is why I started making a graph for this exact purpose. Anyway, next thing. Every character has a list of abilities. An ability is a list of skill checks to be done, And every skill check contains a success and fail check condition. This can be things like gaining or losing health, modifiers changing, and almost everything that status effects can do now that I think about it. Players and enemies will have their own lists of abilities that they can activate in specific circumstances, but I'm also considering interactable objects also giving temporary abilities in the form of picking up items or interacting with the environment. The final thing that has actually been implemented so far is a section of ability systems that keep track of any currently activated ability, so that the player can be shown an interface where they can make decisions for each skill check dice roll. And that should be everything. Now, you might be wondering, and by this I really mean that I'm reminding it to myself, why am I even doing all of this? Working months upon months with barely anything to show for it and whatnot. The easy answer is that all of this boring backend infrastructure for the game is absolutely needed for it to be able to work. It would have been kinda difficult to present it in an entertaining manner regardless of when I would have tackled this. The personal answer, however, is because I want to. Contrary to what a lot of people like to say, there are a lot of unexplored genres for video games that are simply behind a creative barrier. Either people are afraid of taking risk or are unaware of it. You can make the argument that every primary genre has been made and any new game is a combination of genres. That's fair, understandable, reasonable. But that doesn't really mean anything. How many combinations of genres built into subgenres have really been explored? Binding of Isaac played a major role in popularizing roguelike games as a genre. Same with Slay the Spire and deck builders, or all of From Software's games with the Souls-like subgenre of action games, or with Vampire Survivors and whatever genre names decided on that, or how right now there are games similar to Lethal Company being made. I am trying to make a turn-based tactics game that I want to play. A particular combination of subgenres that results in a game that I haven't seen any other game do, and I really want to play it. The only problem is that by making the game myself, I end up actually ruining the experience of playing it in the future, but it's not like anyone else is currently thinking of doing the same thing. Maybe if it gets popular, then all the modding tools I'm working on adding will end with fan-made extras that I can enjoy from everyone else's perspective. Heck, I have 2 other game ideas that I see myself eventually doing with a similar premise on. Why hasn't anyone else made a game like this? I'll get to those when I can fully consider this project to be finished, and I expect it to take between 3 to 5 years, maybe even more. So for now, one project at a time. But hey, at least some of the stuff from this point on might be interesting for the YouTube algorithm, because the next big feature that I'll be working on is character movement, and splitting enemy AI movement as well. So hopefully something doesn't end up disrupting my personal life again. Until next time, whenever that may be.